Hi everyone, so today we have a slightly different setting as you can see, and we will be talking about the watch from Poljot International. But this is something different. I have it on my wrist. It's the Tourbillon from this manufacturer, and while I was checking the previous releases and they were more or less classic, I would say, now we are offered somewhat more sophisticated complication, and it will be interesting to check it closer. So that's why I suggest we start with the unboxing and then we will talk about the details of this watch. As you might have noticed, the box is somewhat classic in the style, but it looks quite luxurious, I would say, and it kind of shows the level of this watch. And the overall packaging is quite sturdy, so I didn't have any issues with the watch. It's carefully packed, but as you might have noticed, there is nothing additional in the box. Nevertheless, I recommend we start with the dial, because I think here we will see all of the main features of this watch. So the dial size here is 42mm, which is rather standard size, and I would say it looks somewhat decent on average size wrist, just like mine. So there is no issue with the legibility and overall placement on the wrist, but we will talk about this later. And overall finish looks very classic, I would say, because we get the sunray finish in a silver color, and we also get the applique decals for the indices. And this is really clean design, which looks very elegant, and it doesn't look cheap. So even though these combinations of the gold and silver sometimes can be looking very cheap and not that, I would say, suitable for the watch, I think here designers really nailed the finish. And it also helps the legibility because the golden on silver is very visible. So we have all of the digits in golden color, but we also get the scale in the black color on the outer edge. So it's very visible. So we get two hands. It's a classic composition, I would say, hours and minutes, and they are finished in this golden finish. It's a polished surface, so it's quite nicely playing on the bright light. And as for the seconds indicator, it is combined together with the tourbillon, of course, on this small sub-dial. And it's really a nice combination, I would say. It looks decent in person, and of course the legibility does not suffer from this because you get really large parts which are easy to find. So this classic combination actually gets even more classic because we don't get any date indicator, and in my opinion this is really good thing because it doesn't break the overall composition. I would add a huge plus for this, and also the whole dial is covered with a sapphire glass, so it's quite sturdy, and it's domed glass, so it looks classic on this watch. But now I think it's the time to talk about the case of this watch. So as for the case, I would say it's standard for Poljot International watches. So we get quite classic composition here for the case, so no extra elements, it's just a smooth surface, and we get the combination of the polished and also brushed surfaces. I think it creates really good visual image, and overall it supports the main idea of the Poljot International watches, where we get a really smooth design which focuses mainly on the dial, not on the case. So here, as you can see, it continues this mission, and I think it's quite successful because we do not get anything extra, and this part, I would say, looks suitable here. It doesn't look cheap. The thickness here is 9.5mm, so it's not that thick on the wrist, as you can see, and it's really comfortable to wear, so no problems. And the lugs are slightly bent, so it also helps with the comfort of use. And as you can see, it kind of wraps around my wrist. What is not that good, if I will take my umbrella into this hand, here, as you can see, we have the crown. So crown as usual is quite large, and it has the engraving of the Poljot International, but we again have the flush surface of the crown and the case, so it's not that easy to pick it out. It's not screwed down part, but still you have to pick it out somehow. And because the engraving here is done in the longitudinal way, so that's why when you're trying to grab it, it's actually your finger sliding out and not grabbing anything. So this is something, I would say, of a classic critique for the Poljot International watches, so that's why I'm still hoping that it will be improved. Of course, with such design you cannot expect the really impressive water protection, so it's only 5 atmospheres. But what is surprising is that we get the clear case back. I will show it on separate shots, but it's quite interesting because the mechanism here is not automatic, and usually it is done with automatic movements. And I think now it's time to talk about the movement inside. It's worth noting also that the rear cover is also covered with the sapphire glass, so it's quite a sapphire sandwich. Nevertheless, the movement inside is so-called 3400, so it's a tourbillon movement, and you can see the part of it through the dial opening or the skeleton opening if you prefer. And what kind of surprised me is the power reserve, because it's 72 hours. So even though this is a hand-wound mechanism, it should be more than enough for the everyday use, and I think it's really a decent choice for everyday collection, especially if you would like to have a classic watch with such complication and yet you would like to have a really good power reserve. And now I think it's time to discuss the strap which is included here. So for this strap, as you can see here, we get the Croco strap with the brown stitching, and also we get the polished buckle here with the Poljot International logo. So this is somewhat classic combination, and I would say it suits this style because the golden case plays nicely with the brown color of the strap. And as you might have noticed in the unboxing, there are no alternative options, so if you would like to get something off the aftermarket, it will be already your expense. But I think this watch might play nicely with some textile straps as well, so if you would like something more comfortable than the leather, then you are free to go and choose it, even from the standard offering from Alexander Shorokhov. So now for ease of use, as you can see, I still have it on my wrist and I spent with it several days, so it's quite an interesting experience because usually I prefer more of the tool watches, and the elegant watches are of course nice, but they're not always suitable for everyday use. Here I would say we have a bit more universal option because of the case finish, because of the size. So it's quite comfortable to use, and also all of these brushed surfaces are placed in the right, I would say, places, so you don't get a lot of scuffs and damage. And overall the weight, the dimensions, I would say, are quite decent. So if you have the average size wrist, it shouldn't be a problem to wear such watch. And of course I think now is the time to talk about the pricing of such thing. So this watch is a limited edition. There will be only 100 pieces produced, and the price will be set around 2,000 euros. So I would say it's a reasonable price for what you get here, because it's first of all, it's a tourbillon movement, and also we get a really limited badge with a classic design. So it's something what you would prefer to choose in comparison with mainstream manufacturers, because it actually offers you a really decent badge of the features which are not looking cheap, and also this is somewhat classic look which should survive the test of the time. And this watch should be already available, so you can get it on official manufacturer website or on Helveti website. And of course I will be happy to hear your opinion, so do not forget to write it here in the comment section below and press the like button if you would like to support me. And I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.